This is why investors will always shy away from La Liga and why Javier Tebas will always win as La Liga's president if he decides to run, except he doesn't want to run. But once he decides to run, he will always be voted for by majority of the voters. Now we know that in Premier League, investors have this freedom to spend money, to pump money into your club. There are rules, financial rules, but not as stringent as what we have in La Liga. In Premier League, the investors have this freedom to pump money, to buy players, exorbitant transfer fees, exorbitant wages they pay players, run the risk of losing their money. Whereas in La Liga, Xavi Tebas has put a lot of financial rules to make sure that clubs don't go financially bankrupt, that clubs remain financially afloat, to avoid what happened to Barcelona over the years. According to him, in his own words, he has decided to put those things in place. You know, ownership of clubs in Premier League is different, right? In Premier League, an investor can just come from Qatar, from Saudi, from US, bid for a club, buys it over and pump money. Whereas in La Liga, most of the clubs in La Liga are members owned, what we call the socios. These members, they own the club collectively. When it's time to vote for a president, they vote collectively and choose who's going to lead the club. And these clubs that are members owned are not for sale. Nobody can come right now as Athletic Bilbao is a members owned club. Nobody can come right now and bid for Athletic Bilbao and say he wants to buy it. It is not for sale. We have clubs like Getafe, Mallorca, Real Sociedad. These are all owned by the socios. You can't just bid for them. Now, Tebas has said that if you allow investors to come and bid for clubs in Spain and buy them over, it is to the detriment of those clubs that are members owned, because investors will now come pumping as much money as they want to the detriment of those clubs that are owned by socios. This is why whenever it's time to elect a new president and he runs, they will always vote for him, save for clubs like Madrid and Barcelona. Those ones have been always, antagonistic of his modus operandi. They don't vote for him. But these clubs that are members owned will always vote for him. Madrid is a members owned by the socios. Barcelona, Athletic Bilbao. The last I checked, Madrid is owned by over 100,000 members in its socios. Same with Barcelona. Things like Athletic Bilbao, about 20-something thousand. Athletic Madrid, mind you, is not owned by a socios. It's owned by an investor. There are a few other clubs in Spain that are owned by private investors. But Tebas is saying that if he allows it open for private investors to come and buy clubs in Spain and then give them the financial freedom to spend money, it is going to be to the detriment of these clubs that are members owned. That is why whenever, because 70% of the clubs are member owned, so whenever it's time to vote for a new president, they will always vote for him because he looks out for their own interest. This is why investors will always shy away from La Liga. And sadly, it is also why the Premier League will always enjoy money. Investors, Premier League will always be ahead of La Liga.